So, uh, have you ever felt that subtle nudge online? Like a website or maybe an app was gently but, well, firmly steering you towards doing something you didn't quite intend.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe you clicked an X on a pop-up, expecting it to just go away, right?
Uh,
Only for it to suddenly subscribe you to a newsletter or something.
or that classic free trial that somehow just rolls right into a recurring payment without you really noticing until it hits your bank account.
Exactly. That
Right.
kind of unsettling feeling you get when what happens online doesn't quite match what you wanted. Well, there's actually a name for it. It's called a dark pattern.
Mm-hmm.
For this deep dive, we've pulled together a stack of sources that really lay out what these dark patterns are, how they work, often quite ingeniously, actually,
Yeah.
and maybe most importantly, how you can spot them.
Yeah, how to protect yourself.
Right, how to arm yourself with the knowledge to, navigate the digital world a bit more safely. Our mission today really is to help you make truly informed decisions online.
And what's fascinating, I think, is how these deceptive design practices have really evolved over time.
Mm-hmm.
The term itself, dark patterns, it was coined by user experience designer Harry Brignull way back in
Oh,
2010.
wow, that long ago.
Yeah, so they've been around a while. And crucially, these aren't like accidental mistakes in the design, they are intentionally crafted.
Right, purposeful.
Exactly. There are user interface designs on websites and apps that definitely prioritize the business goals over, well, over your well-being as a user.
How do they do that?
Often by exploiting known psychological
Hmm.
vulnerabilities, cognitive biases that we all have, like our tendency to stick with the default option or fear of missing out.
Okay, I see.
And you find them pretty much everywhere. E-commerce, subscription services, video games, even those cookie banners that pop up all the time. It's really become a significant concern for consumer protection, for data privacy regulators across the globe, a real challenge to user autonomy online.
So if they're intentional, what exactly are they trying to achieve? It sounds like more than just a minor irritation.
Oh, much more. Precisely. They are fundamentally deceptive design practices. They're deployed by online services to, well, subtly manipulate your behavior.
Manipulate. That sounds pretty strong.
It is, but it's accurate.
Yeah.
The main goal is often to trick you, essentially, into making choices that might go against your own best interests. Maybe buying an overpriced add-on you don't actually need, or unwittingly signing up for ongoing charges you didn't want.
Right.
So unlike ethical design, which, strives for clarity, for an intuitive user experience, dark patterns deliberately put the business's interests first. There was actually a 2024 Global Privacy Enforcement Network sweep involved 26 different authorities, and they found nearly 40% of websites actively created obstacles for users trying to make privacy choices.
40%. Wow.
Yeah, it just underscores how widespread this really is.
And it's not just this vague idea, right? The research we looked at actually starts to categorize these tactics. How do organizations break them down?
They do, yeah. Our sources sort of outline several key categories. One big type involves misleading consumers and disguising advertisements.
Okay, like making an ad look like a news article.
Exactly that.
Right.
Or you might see a countdown timer creating this like false sense of urgency, implying a limited time offer when it's actually not time sensitive at all.
The pressure tactic.
Right. Then another major category focuses on making it incredibly difficult to cancel stuff. Subscriptions, charges, they create these confusing multi-step processes that are really just designed to make you give up.
Ugh, I have definitely been caught in that maze before. It's so frustrating. And then there's the whole issue of like burying key terms or those hidden junk fees, right?
Spot on. You think you're getting one price, and then suddenly, surprise, extra costs pop up right at the very end of the checkout.
After you've already put in all your details.
Exactly. Companies might hide crucial info like extra fees or, significant limitations deep within those super dense terms of service documents that, let's be honest, almost nobody reads.
Guilty as charged.
We all are. Or, yeah, those junk fees only appear really late in the buying process after you've already invested time and effort. And finally, there's a category that's squarely focused on tricking consumers into sharing more personal data than they intend to,
How does that work?
often by steering users towards options that automatically give away the most information. Frequently, it's through like default settings that are really easy to miss if you're just clicking through quickly.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical because I think we've all bumped into some of the, let's call them famous examples of these dark patterns like pre-selection. We've all seen that box that's already ticked for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our sources highlight how that leverages our default bias. We're just less likely to change something that's already set, even if it's not what we'd choose ourselves.
That's a perfect example. Or think about confirm shaming.
Confirm shaming, what's that?
It uses like guilt-inducing language to make you agree to something.
Yeah.
So an e-commerce site might phrase the option to decline a discount as, no thanks, I enjoy paying full price, or something similar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Subtle guilt trip.
Exactly. It plays on our desire not to feel foolish or, like we're missing out.
Bait and switch is another really sneaky one,
Hmm.
where the action you think you're taking, like clicking that X to close a pop-up,
Right, you expect it to just disappear.
leads to something totally different. Like suddenly you're installing software you didn't ask for, and hidden costs, bane of every online shopper, service fees, weird delivery charges just magically appearing at the last second.
Indeed, and the Roach Motel pattern, it's incredibly frustrating and maybe perfectly named.
Because you can check in, but you can't check out.
Precisely. Makes it super easy to sign up for a service, but then canceling, oh, that's a whole different story. Extremely difficult, intentionally so. Social media platforms, for example, often really easy to join, right? But actually getting your account fully deleted can be a surprisingly convoluted process.
Been there too.
And then there's privacy zuckering.
And after.
Named after Mark Zuckerberg, yes. It essentially tricks users into sharing far more personal information than they actually intended to. Sometimes it's through really broad consent for data brokering. You unknowingly agree to let companies collect and then sell your data.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to take in. These examples really hammer home how insidious these patterns can be. They're really manipulating our natural tendencies, exploiting our trust.
Absolutely.
Is that deep psychological level why regulators are starting to take such serious notice now?
That's exactly it. It's because these tactics so directly exploit our cognitive biases, because they systematically undermine user autonomy, that regulators are really stepping in forcefully.
Makes sense.
The short-term gains businesses might get from these, they often come at the cost of long-term trust. Users who feel tricked or deceived are, frankly, very likely to just abandon the platform.
And tell their friends.
And tell their friends, exactly. Warn others. That's why regulatory bodies all over the world are scrutinizing these practices more and more and taking action. In the EU, for example, you have strong consumer protection laws like the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, and the Digital Services Act. They're really helping push for a fairer internet.
And in the U.S.
Similarly, in the USA, federal laws like the FTC Act and also the Restore Online Shoppers Confidence Act, RSCA, for short, these are major tools being used. The FTC actually put out a big report in 2022 called Bringing Dark Patterns to Light, which specifically highlighted the alarming rise in these sophisticated digital tricks.
And it's not just reports and warnings, right? There are actual, big financial consequences happening.
Right.
The sources we looked at mentioned Epic Games.
Yes.
Paying a huge amount, what was it, $245 million
Yeah.
to settle charges over deceptive patterns in Fortnite's payment system.
Staggering amount. And another one was the Diet app Noom. They settled charges related to their subscription and auto-renewal practices for $62 million.
$62 million. Wow. So these aren't just minor ethical oopsies anymore. This is serious business risk.
Exactly right. These cases clearly demonstrate the significant financial and reputational risks involved. So, to avoid those kinds of outcomes, our sources suggest companies are being, strongly encouraged to adopt what's called ethical design principles.
Okay, what does that involve?
Things like being genuinely transparent about data collection, not hiding it in the fine print, avoiding default settings that trick people into giving away data unexpectedly, and making sure that opting out, canceling a service, is just as simple and clear as opting in was in the first place.
Simple fairness, really.
Fundamentally, yes. The ultimate goal should be building stronger, more trustworthy relationships with users. And you do that through clear, honest, transparent experiences, not through tricks.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening right now? We've seen that dark patterns or deceptive patterns, a better term, they're fundamentally about manipulation. Manipulating your online behavior, often to benefit the business, usually at your expense. We've walked through some specific examples. Pre-selection, confirm shaming, the old bait and switch, that really annoying Roach Motel that makes it easy to sign up, but a nightmare to cancel.
Don't forget privacy zuckering.
Right, privacy zuckering, tricking you into sharing way more personal info than you meant to. And the bottom line is running into these things. It leads to frustration, unwanted consequences, sometimes even real financial loss. And it just eats away at the trust between us and the platforms we use every day.
It really does.
But,
Gra-
and this is the important part, the good news is that just understanding these tactics, knowing they exist, that empowers you.
Absolutely. Awareness is key.
So remember to be a vigilant internet user. Just pause. Read carefully before you click, especially on those really prominent buttons or ones using persuasive, maybe emotional language. Be super wary of any pre-check boxes.
Always double check.
Always double-check your shopping cart before you finally pay. Look for unexpected items, weird fees, and if a cancellation process feels ridiculously hard, persist. It's almost certainly a roach motel by design.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Hmm.
Just being critical, looking closely at website and app designs, and actively seeking out the clear, transparent options, that's your best defense.
And if we sort of zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, while these dark patterns might offer some companies short-term wins, maybe boost a quarterly report, they very often come at this significant long-term cost.
Customer loyalty, brand reputation.
Exactly, damaging both. Like
Yeah.
we said, users who feel deceived, they leave. And they talk about it. And regulators globally are watching, they are taking action, as those huge fines for Epic Games and Noom clearly demonstrate. So this kind of raises an important question, I think, for you to consider. If companies are facing such massive legal and financial heat for using dark patterns, what do you think is the actual tipping point? What will it take for businesses to truly, fully embrace ethical design, genuinely ensuring transparency and prioritizing user well-being above everything else, and maybe even bigger? What would the internet actually look like if our autonomy, our ability to make free choices, was always the default setting rather than something we constantly have to fight for?